Welcome back, everybody. My name's Shane. We're going to do another live stream Q&A. This is number 3 for the Geeky Nerdy Techie YouTube channel. So thank you for joining in, if you do join in. Anyway, I've got a brand new setup today. I'm going to keep mixing things up from time to time with these live streams. So I've got camera 1, which is the S5 Mark II, the standard, not the X. And over here, we have the S9 running into the ATEM Mini. Now, the great thing about the S9, with a little micro to full-size HDMI adapter that I used to have for my original S5, I can run it out into an ATEM Mini and let it run all day. So that's pretty cool. And I noticed something else with the S9, the fact that the lag with the HDMI is identical to the S5 Mark II. So you can pair this in a studio like this and you're not going to have out of sync audio, which is fantastic. Anyway, thanks for joining in. I'll wait until we get some folks in here. I'm going to just take some questions, talk about a few things that are going on in the camera world as I see them, and as you know, as questions come in, it'll direct the chat, all that kind of stuff. So let us know where you're watching from. Let us know what you're shooting with. I'm going to talk about why I'm considering going back to manual focus for a little while in just a moment. Well, I'm also going to talk about a lens that I haven't used enough, which is kind of inspiring the change back to manual focus for a while. Not in this sort of situation. I mean, autofocus is by far the easiest, but for when I'm behind the camera, it's a good challenge, and you get some sort of great results with it as well. So anyway, let us know if the audio is good. Let us know if the video quality is okay. I still haven't nailed the computer setup in here. I really need something like a Mac Mini or something like that with a Ethernet cable to do this. I'm still doing this over Wi-Fi, so hopefully it looks okay. Hopefully it sounds all right. Anyway, we'll see how we go. Anyway, welcome, folks. I had to start this half hour early. I ended up scheduling it for 9 p.m. Melbourne, Sydney time, and I've ended up moving it to 8:30, so we are a little early. But let us know if you can see a huge difference with these cameras here. They should match pretty well. They're running in the Cine D picture profile, which is something I don't often use, but I just enhanced the saturation +2. I think this might be the new look for the studio. But anyway, let us know what you think. All right, so while we're waiting for some folks to come in, I'm just going to talk about a lens that I've had for way too long and I haven't used much. And then we'll talk a little bit about the experience of what's going on this week with cameras, because there's always something. Anyway, we'll get to that in just a moment. This is the lens I want to shoot with more. This is a 7 Artisans 35mm T 1.05. Now, I shot with this initially on the original S5, and this is an APS-C L-mount lens, even though it's big. It's a Cine lens, and I remember when I used it, just how beautiful the image was paired with that original S5. There was something kind of special about it to my eye anyway, and I just want to start using this again because it has some really beautiful flaring. I'm going to show you sort of the build quality of it as well if you haven't seen my review. Yeah, back when I first started doing some of these lens reviews, they weren't getting many views because the channel was a lot smaller than it is now. But yeah, this is something I've kept because it's really impressive. Take a look at this. I'll show you on this camera over here. So yeah, the build quality is crazy. It's got an aperture ring. It's T 1.05, so it's extremely fast. And even though it's an APS-C lens, means we're going to get less rolling shutter, yet we're still going to get crazy shallow depth of field. So this is super fast. It's just a beautiful lens. So I want to start challenging myself a little bit more, not making content necessarily talking to the camera, but when I'm behind the camera, I want to start getting back into shooting manual focus and using a few of these lenses. This is just really inspiring. And again, if you haven't seen reviews of this, go check it out. Again, the lens flaring, the overall optical quality on this is great. Sort of, we were talking about last time on the live stream that the original S5 may have a nicer image than the S5 Mark II. I kind of wish I had done more A/B comparisons between them. There's obvious advantages to the S5. I mean, it's not even close in many ways, but that original S5's image, much like the GH6 and the contrast DFD cameras, there was definitely something pretty special about that image quality. which is why I'm also breaking out the GH6. As much as I want to jump on a GH7, I'm gonna have a cold shower and see what the deals are coming up, because so far it's brand new. It's just come out and it's not on sale, and I'm a tight ass. So that's the way that we do this. Anyway, so that's what we're doing. Anyway, let us know where you're watching from, folks. There's 4 people watching. Let us know if you have any questions relating to camera, tech, or whatever. I'm streaming this with E-Camm Live, the Peter Gregg software of choice, via my little MacBook here. So the comments are here. Camera number 1, S5 Mark II. Camera number 2, S9, Cine D picture profile. So I don't know. I just thought we'd mix it up, have a little bit of fun with the cameras tonight. I don't know how many people will be joining in tonight. If it's a bit of a quiet live stream, we may postpone this, but yeah, we'll see how we go. I've really enjoyed getting online, talking cameras, talking tech, chatting about all the new things. I think when it comes to what's around right now, there's 2 cameras that really interest me from the new range of stuff. The Nikon Z6 Mark III, and obviously the GH7. Those are the 2 that I don't have that I would be very interested in owning. And they're kind of similar cameras in a lot of ways, but you know, the Nikon might be it's a bit overpriced at the moment. I can't wait till it goes on sale, but that could be a camera I could see myself owning at some point in the future, or at least testing anyway. I've also got some good news too. So if you know the channel, I try to review as much stuff as I can, even though I love using the Lumix stuff. I own some Sony cameras. I've reviewed, what else have I reviewed? Oh no, that was my old channel. I actually reviewed a Canon. No, I think I did have a Canon video on this channel as well, but I used to have a tech channel that I shut down before this one, and then I started it again with just different content, basically. So I've lost track of what went up, but I'll be reviewing the Fuji X-H2 and S coming up with a handful of different lenses. I know they're not new, like as in like they came out like, I don't know what, 8 months ago. No, it was a while back before that, right? It was a while ago. They've been out for maybe a year and a half. So I'm looking at potentially getting my hands on them early next month, which will be cool. So there'll be a good mix of stuff, and if I can, I'll compare them up against other camera systems. I think that'll be a really cool thing. All right, if anyone's got any questions, let us know. Otherwise, I'll just keep rambling on for a little while. I've got a bit of a story for everyone that I'm going to share in a different video. This is basically the dodgy business practices of Australian camera stores. And this doesn't include TEDs, and it doesn't include Diamond cameras, and it doesn't include Camera House. But the others, I don't trust them at all anymore. So I've got a bit of a debacle of an online purchase story coming up that just finally got resolved today. It's a nightmare. There's a few shops now I'll never buy online from again, and I'll never make the same mistake again coming up. But all right. Welcome, Action Footage Australia. How you doing? It says, what's the best gimbal for the Panasonic G9? So the good news about Micro Four Thirds is, as long as you're using a relatively small lens, most small gimbals are good. The one that I really like using, have I got it over here? Where is it? So there's a few, but the one I would recommend is the Hohem. I'll write it in the chat for you. It's got a weird name. It's by a company called Hohem. I reviewed it. It's got like an AI tracker on there as well. So if you're talking to the camera, you can make a gesture. I think it's the OK sign from memory, and it will just track you. And that is so small and light. Actually, I think I've got it right here. I'll grab it for you. One sec. It's always the way. You know what? It's not there. I thought I had it in here for sure. It might be in my garage, but I used it the other day, actually. It's the, Hohem AI tracker, I think it's called. Let me just find the name of it. I just want to make sure I got the... what's called the... it's called the Hohem AI Gimbal, basically. that would be a great choice. It's small, it's light, the battery life's great. It's got fairly fast charging as well compared to a lot of other gimbals, so you don't have to wait all day. Within like an hour and a half, it's charged basically. That would be my choice. And if you don't want to use the AI thing, you can just take it off and leave it in the bag or whatever. So that'd be my choice. You know, I've reviewed the another one as well, which I think people had trouble getting orders for. The only other one I can think of is the Zhun Weebill 3. It's slightly bigger. It has a heavier payload capacity over the Hohem, but I think for the G9, that would be my choice. It's nice and small, and yeah, it's pretty sweet. All right, we've got Philip here as well. How you doing, mate? Thank you for joining in. Let us know where you're watching from, folks. He says, will you try out the new 7 Artisan Cine lens? You already have the Vision one. Yeah, actually, funnily enough, I was just talking about this before. This is something that's I'm gonna use more coming up. It's such a great lens. I was revisiting some footage I shot with it, and I was like, man, this is great. And, you know, I'm a bit of a weirdo, like Rhett Thompson and a few of the other YouTubers. We like the challenge of sometimes shooting with stuff that's a bit different. And yeah, this thing is, I'll show you on this one over here. This thing is absolutely beautiful. So I would love to review that. I might actually shoot him an email and see. I'm not on the list for any reviews as of right now from them. I've got some other cool stuff coming up if you just joined. So next month I'll be reviewing some Fuji stuff, which will be cool. Yeah, that's about it at the moment. So if there's any more 7 Artisan stuff coming up, I'd love to do it for sure. I'll see what I can do. No worries, man. Sorry, I thought for sure I had it in the studio here, the gimbal, but I don't. But that one you can't really go too far wrong with, and yeah, it's fun to use as well. It's very simple. It's easy enough to balance. You sometimes have to. Gimbals are all a bit weird, but I would say that's probably the most fun one to use out of all the ones I've got. All right, we've got Digital Slang says, good morning. How are you, mate? Thanks for joining in. I appreciate it. We're taking a few questions. If anyone's got any questions or comments or whatever, let us know. So thanks for joining in. I guess you're if it's good morning there, you must be in the US or potentially Europe somewhere. Yeah, the Fuji stuff's fun. I've actually wanted to test the XH2 and S for a while, and I really like the look of them. I think kind of the only ding against them compared to some of the other cameras might be the IBIS performance doesn't look quite as good. I think the autofocus probably isn't on par with some of the other cameras, but you know, that's not a deal breaker for a lot of people, and I still think they're pretty good value camera body from what I've seen online, at least anyway. But until I get my hands on them, it's hard to know. But yeah, they look super cool. I think coming up too, I'm going to be flipping my Sony cameras and most of the lenses. I probably won't get rid of all of them in terms of the lenses, but yeah, I think the time's come. I've done a video about that already. It's in the queue, but I'll just share that with you ahead of time. So I'm thinking of trading in the FX3. And if I can trade the FX30 in as well, I'll do that and just put it towards something else. And that something else is messing with me a bit. So we'll see how we go with that. 6:45 a.m. in the US. Very cool. I was going to try and do this later, but I was actually starting to feel kind of tired already. And I thought if I leave it too late, it'll be a mess. Just from my perspective. But more people will join. So I think next time I'll do it in the morning, my time, which will be the evening in North America. We'll see how we go with that. Oh, here we go. XH2S. The AF is getting in each updates worse and worse. Wow. Okay. Well, that's interesting. I mean, it's phase detect autofocus, right? But from what I understand, they don't have like the contrast element. So it's sort of like it's like overly responsive or indecisive is maybe a better word. Something like that. Yeah, the Canon cameras, man. I don't know. I've picked a few of them up and I haven't found one that I love the feel of. I know it's kind of weird, but I don't pick them up and go, wow, this feels amazing. Some of them feel kind of cheap to me. I don't know. They look a little basic. Maybe that's part of their charm or something. I'm not too sure. I've never I've owned one mirrorless camera from them back in the day, but I haven't owned any of their recent ones. And yeah, let us know if you'd recommend something in terms of Canon cameras, because I don't really have my head, invested, or my thoughts invested in the Canon ecosystem whatsoever. They lost me with the whole overheating debacle. I was not interested. I know their lens mount was kind of restricted too, so I was like, yeah, that won't be something for me. I know a lot of Micro Four Thirds shooters really love their the Canon glass on adapters and so forth, but yeah, we'll see. Yeah. Anyway, I don't know if I'll go Canon for me. I think I'm more of a. I think I could get into. I know I'm not much of a Sony fan either. I don't love their business model. Basically re-releasing the same camera and incrementally making them worse each time. They're making them cheaper on the most part too, but not necessarily. That's not necessarily a good thing unless you want a budget camera. So it kind of devalues some of their higher end cameras, but also makes it more affordable for people to get into it, which I guess makes sense as well. But anyway, thinking of upgrading. Thoughts on the A7C II? Is that one? If I was to get a full frame Sony camera now, and I wanted a hybrid camera and a non-primary video camera, I would get that camera. That'd be the one that I would get personally. The A7C II is the only one I would consider buying from the range. I like its size. I like the kind of look of it. The grip's improved from the prior version. It doesn't seem to have, although it can overheat, I don't think it's quite as bad as some of the other cameras, especially some of the new ones. And if you're just shooting short bursts of video here or there, or using it in the studio, they'll probably be okay. But the A7C that I had, I really liked it for photography, but I hated the grip, and the IBIS was just unusable. So I'm always living with that compromise right there when it comes to the IBIS. But yeah, A7C II would probably be my choice if I had to get any current Sony camera. I wouldn't even, being the video guy that I am, the only one that, there's three that I like. The FX3, the A7S III, and the ZVE1 or the ZVE1. They're the three that I think most video shooters would gravitate to. But I don't need a primary Sony camera anymore. If I get one again for lens reviews, it would be that, because it seems like the perfect kind of hybrid camera for most shooting scenarios. So yeah, it'd be it looks cool. I can absolutely recommend it based on what I've seen of it, but I haven't used it myself. R5 II coming out. Yeah. Again, no IBIS, right? That's well, I don't know, actually. I shouldn't say that. The R5 doesn't have IBIS, which is a bit of a deal breaker for most of the stuff that I do. The thing I'm thinking about now is I don't want to bring gimbals with me anymore. As great as they are for getting more like cinematic shots, I find myself using them very infrequently now. Occasionally just for video reviews I'll use them, but if I'm in a situation where I need steady footage, I'm taking a camera with killer IBIS, and I'd rather not have to lug along a gimbal. One of the biggest mistakes I made was traveling with a gimbal last time I was overseas, and it just added so much extra filler into my bags, and we used it once. It wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth it. All right. Another question: do you use DDT10 or Tentacle Sync? I don't use any of those things, actually. So the audio setup in here right now is just the Shure mic. I've got a the Cloud Lifter kind of thing. It's a who makes this? It's a SE Dynamite, which is basically like an inline preamp going straight into the XLR on my camera. At my old house, where it was a lot more quiet than it is here because of the traffic, I'd use a Rode NT G5 as my primary microphone. I've still got it because when I get out of this house, move somewhere more quiet, I'm going to break out the condenser mic again. But this has been great. It helps reject the sound of the cars going by, and it seems to work pretty well. Digital Slang says, I've been looking at the FX30 as well. It'll be mainly for video. That's the choice. If you're going to go APS-C, it's not even close. And the thing with Sony cameras is A lot of the guys that review them, you know, they don't take them outside. They just use them in the studio. And cameras without fans overheat pretty quick from Sony, so I would say that would be the choice for sure. You know, the new ZV-E10 II, which is the worst naming convention ever, is pretty cool. Like, it's a cool little camera, except for the fact it doesn't have IBIS and it overheats pretty quick once you get past like 23 Celsius. Yeah, I don't know. I don't like rewarding that personally, but hey, we got Ken Slider here. Welcome, man. Hope you're doing well. He says, I got the GH7 this morning and it's amazing. I'm running some tests on YouTube comparing to my trusty 7-year-old GH5. Very good, mate. I hope you enjoy it. It's a killer camera. It's definitely on my wish list. It's very good. This is part of the reason why I think once I get rid of these, some of the Sony cameras here, I'm definitely going to be going into, I'm going to be shooting micro four thirds a bit more. I actually really enjoy it. It's fun. It's a bit more challenging in certain situations, but also easier in others. So yeah, great stuff, man. That's super cool. Very cool. I think you'll definitely notice a huge difference in the color science. I think the new color science straight out of camera is great. There might be some profiles on the original GH5 that look slightly nicer potentially than the new one, but I don't know, man. I think the new GH7 just wipes the floor with it. Dynamic range is better. Low light performance is better. The IBIS is better. The audio is better. It's great. And the GH5 is fantastic, right? If that's your only camera, you got a great camera. It's awesome. So yeah, unreal, man. That's cool. Philip says gimbals are overrated. Yeah, they're handy if, like, the other day we were shooting outside with the FX30. This is the only thing that's a deal breaker for me with this camera is the IBIS. After you've used the Lumix or Olympus stuff or potentially Canon and many others, handheld stuff with the FX30 is pretty tough. It's okay if you've got like wider angle lenses or something to about a 35mm equivalent, but once you get past 50mm equivalent lenses, it's pretty rough. And the Cine lens review I did with this was almost unusable handheld. That's how hard it was shooting with that 72mm f1.2. It was so shaky, like it was brutal. I ran it through Catalyst Browse, and then I realized I should just use the gimbal, and that kind of saved the day. So gimbals are awesome in the right scenario. I find them really handy for low to the ground shots, you know, getting beautiful establishing shots. You still can't quite replicate it even on a camera with amazing in-body image stabilization, but they're way less practical than I think they're sometimes worth if they're too big. Again, I've got a Ronin S, and it's the heaviest, most like cumbersome thing ever. It's a great tool to have, but it's so big. Like, it's 3.5 kilograms, so it's getting closer to 7 pounds, and then you've got to add your camera. It's like, this sucks. So yeah, it is what it is. You kind of got to find, you know, if it works for you or your camera doesn't have an IBIS system, you got no choice, right? SE is a great company. I have the SE Omni mic, great condenser. Rode NT5 is the best cardioid you can have, sub 2K. Oh, awesome. That's cool. Yeah, the SE stuff is great. A friend of mine's got one of their Ribbon musical microphones, and it's unbelievable. Like, great build quality. Yeah, very impressive. And I actually purchased 2 of these, like, I don't know, maybe 3 years ago. I did reviews on the channel when I first got them, and I couldn't believe how great these things sounded. Yeah, I've got cloud lifters here as well. I did a sponsored thing on my other channel with Sweetwater, and they sent out the cloud lifter, and I think this is a bit more functional unit. It just sort of clips in like this. I don't love the fact it's red. I would have liked to have seen it in black, but yeah, they make great stuff, great value stuff, and yeah, they make great vocal microphones and all that kind of thing. So I noticed on a mate of mine's channel, Grant, he was talking about struggles in Australia when you put a camera order in, and it keeps getting pushed back, and then you try to get a refund, and it's a nightmare. So I've just been through this as well with a different company, and it's gotten to the point now where I've just put together a video talking about it. I filmed it just before this, actually, and how much of a nightmare the situation's been. And I can't believe the industry is still like this here. It's crazy. And it's a sure sign that a lot of these camera stores, not all of them, but it's a sure sign some of them won't stay long term because of this exact problem. And anyway, I'm going to share that with you on a different video. But it's crazy, man. I've had a crazy week trying to get a refund for a product that wasn't in stock, sold as it was in stock, basically, or essentially it was about to come in. It never did. It got pushed back a month within the first few days of ordering it. And then trying to get a refund was a nightmare. But we'll talk about that later. I sorted it out. All right. I'm not sure how to say your name, but he says S5 Mark II, L mount versus Canon with adapter. L mount versus Canon. So you're saying that you want to shoot with the S5 Mark II? Oh, I see what you mean. Native lenses all day. That's all I'm going to say. I think you'll get the best performance with native lenses. Any L mount lens that's native to the system will work better than adapters. Not all adapters are equal. You know, I think there's some pretty solid tests of the Lumix S5 Mark II on Tony Northrup's channel talking about autofocus performance, if that's your biggest concern with the adapters. And I think he got a pretty good result out of it from memory, but it's definitely not something that I'm not at all interested in adapters. Even from the Micro Four Thirds days, I was like, I get the point of it, but I'd rather have like a native set of lenses than, you know, pulling stuff from other brands. I don't really see the value in that. And also with Micro Four Thirds, a lot of people will buy the big Canon lens. You might as well just buy a full frame camera. I don't really sort of get that either. I had the same problem with Amazon in Germany in terms of refunds. Oh, that sucks, man. Yeah, a lot of the camera stores here tend to, well, it's not a lot, sorry. There's two relatively large camera chains here that will sell you something that's never in stock, and it will list it as in, like it's in stock. And it's a nightmare dealing with them. You can't call them, you can't chat with them online, or if you can, you get nowhere basically. So I've put together like a 12-minute rant about this experience. See, the difference here is, at least in Australia, the Amazon refund thing is actually pretty good. I've had a camera fail on me about 6 months after I bought it, and they just refunded me straight away. So yeah, I just feel like a lot of there's these two camera companies here, two shops that are very deceptive in their, not only their marketing, but also in their business practices. And I haven't heard enough people complain about it until you go onto Trustpilot or whatever it's called and you check out the reviews. And it's like, oh, it's brutal. Anyway, we'll get into that later. I'll just have a quick drink while we're chatting here, and I'll take the next question. Question with the S5 Mark IIX with the 70-300 versus GH6 or 7 with the 100-300 concert event zoom shoot. I have a GH5S and 100-300, and the S5 Mark IIX image is another level. Yeah, the X is hard to beat, man. Or the S5 Mark II, the full frame cameras just look fantastic. You know, GH7 is right there, but you're getting it's a different look, right? Like you get the full frame thing with the S5 Mark II and X. Micro Four Thirds has a whole set of other advantages, and usually for concert stuff or for filming bands, Micro Four Thirds is generally better. You get smaller lenses. Excuse me. I just had dinner, and now I'm drinking water and fizzy drinks. You get like smaller lenses, you get, well, what used to be better in-body image stabilization, although that's evened out now. But yeah, you get less rolling shutter with Micro Four Thirds, helps with like drumsticks and fast action sort of stuff like that. Whereas the S5 Mark II has noticeably more rolling shutter. You could shoot in APS-C crop and still get a great image though. So yeah, it's the thing that's going to be the biggest difference here is the size of the lens. So if that's not a concern, yeah, then it could really go either way there. But it depends on the kind of event shooting you're doing. I just think for bands, usually Micro Four Thirds is preferred. But yeah, it depends on the look. If it's a low lit situation, the full frame camera is going to look better, right? It's still, although the GH7's low light is way better than I anticipated. It's very good now. So even the G9 Mark II has pretty solid low light performance. I thought it was usable at least to 4,000. You know, everyone's opinion on that could change, or vary. But I actually really like the low light performance on both those cameras. But yeah, I ended up today, after all this debacle with the camera shop, I ended up getting my my money back finally. PayPal came through in the clinch. Oh man, I couldn't believe it. What a nightmare. So now I'm back to square one. There's nothing that I ordered or nothing on the way to the studio now. I've just got the same stuff, and that's totally fine. I actually feel pretty good about not dealing with a new piece of camera gear right now. But tell you what, this, as I said at the start of the stream, I don't know if anyone was here, but the two cameras that interest me, GH7, 100%, I love it, and the Nikon Z6 III both look really great on, you know, for what I like. The problem is, right, if you go over to a completely different system, and this is how I feel right now, I've got too many segmented systems. I got E-mount, I got an APS-C camera and a full frame camera. I've got Micro Four Thirds and Micro Four Thirds lenses, and then I've got L-mount and the lenses that work for that. And it's too much stuff. It's getting to the point where I'm like, just build up one system that I use the most, build that up, and then secondly, have an alternative system. And I think Micro Four Thirds for me would be the way to go. I kind of feel like that'll be the more fun option for me long term, at least anyway. So for those who have just joined, we've got the S9 over here, Cine D picture profile, S5 Mark II, Cine D picture profile. I tried to white balance these identically, so this is how they compare. Obviously the light's going to be a bit different on this side of the studio, but yeah, let us know how it looks and sounds, if everything's working all right. EF lenses, we can use Micro Four Thirds and L-mount bodies. Yeah, oh yeah, you're right. Okay, cool. Yep, good call. I think I'm just not that much into adapting lenses. It's just a personal thing. It doesn't mean it's wrong or anything like that. I just prefer the simplicity of not having to worry about adapters. It's just me. Been waiting for the Blackmagic 6K full frame since 2 months. Bought it on Amazon when it was 1,000 euros. Discounted, and still waiting for the camera. Wow. Would you try the Blackmagic full frame L-mount? I'd love to try one of those. That'd be one of the cameras I would absolutely love to test. Yeah, they're just a little expensive here for me right now. And I have to, as much as I would love to try one, if I could borrow one, absolutely, I would review it in a heartbeat. But it's a bit of money to dish out on a camera that is a bit of a different system. And again, it would be limited in its use case for me, being that I would have to really rig it out to use it. And I'd only use it if I was really behind the camera. And those limitations are enough now for me to go, oh, there might be something else out there for me. But I tell you what, the image quality out of that sensor is great. It actually probably is the same sensor as the S5 Mark II. I'm not exactly sure. But yeah, I mean, the Blackmagic camera system as a whole is very appealing. I even like their Micro Four Thirds ones. I think the image quality is fantastic. Kind of reminds me of the GH5S when you're talking about that Micro Four Thirds Blackmagic Pocket 4K, and the new L-mount one would be, you know, every bit as good as this, but contrast DFD, so probably a hair softer image overall potentially, but yeah, you can't do this. Not that that matters, of course. If you're behind the camera, who cares? Blackmagic is an Australian company. Maybe you could ask them directly. Yeah, you know what? I've got quite a few of their products here. So the ones that I've just bought over the years, I'm using an ATEM mini switcher right now. I've got a couple of these guys as well. Yeah, I should try. I've never really tried to reach out to them. You've just probably inspired me to do so. Thanks. Actually, it'd be really great to try even one of their Pocket 4Ks. I think trying both would be awesome. Yeah, I just love the look out of those cameras. They're really great. They are really great. Yeah, I shot this thing over in Germany a while back, and they had a couple of full frame Sony systems and also some Blackmagic Pocket 4K multi-camera setups, and they looked awesome. You know, you obviously there's a difference in the shallow depth of field and all that kind of stuff, but the colors look great. Really nice. Really nice. I might take a chance on one of them. If I find one on eBay at some point, like a 4K one, I wouldn't mind trying that out. But the owl mount one, I'd definitely love to try. I think in Australia, they're quite a bit more expensive than something like the S5 Mark II. So there's that. I think they're almost $800 more. I could be wrong. All right, let me just change the chat. Sorry, it's a bit laggy tonight for me. Hopefully it's working all right here. Oh, man. Sorry, Judge, is that how you pronounce your name? Probably not, but I hope you're doing well, mate. All the best. That doesn't sound like fun whatsoever. All right, let's try this. This is Mark. Welcome. He says, any suggestions for a second-hand camera for live streaming? The great thing about live streaming is you can pretty much get almost anything and use it in combination with like a switcher or one of those Elgato 4K dongle things. What are they called? The cam links? Is that what they're called? So if you've got already got a switcher, you pretty much can get anything. And you, depending on your skill level, you might not need autofocus. You might need autofocus. I don't know. You can usually just lock it off and have it work if you don't mind. And if you're happy to do that, you can save yourself an absolute fortune. Like we were saying before, the Blackmagic Pocket 4K will do the job in that situation. HDMI straight into the ATEM Mini. You can kind of control it that way. You can get a GH5 secondhand or even, you know, I don't really want to recommend something with a mini HDMI, but not all mini HDMIs are bad. Try the original S5. That's a great camera. If you need something that you can just plug into the computer, the Sony FX30 is the way to go. It won't overheat. You can plug it in and use it like a webcam. And that takes all of the switcher stuff out of it as well. That would be my choice. You know, there's other cameras that have been out since the FX30, but they overheat after like an hour. And I can't really recommend those. And you might even be able to find like a GH6 for far less money than some of these other options now. They were recently like almost 60% off here. But yeah, that would be my suggestion. You don't really need to go too crazy with it. If you want the full frame look, you'll have to get a full frame camera. APS-C is kind of right in the middle there, which is the FX30. Image quality out of FX30 is awesome. Now, I always say this, if I had a chance to get two FX30s instead of one FX3 when I first got my FX3, I would have done that. But yeah, that's my suggestions right there. All right, we got Atua here. He says, hey, Shane from the UK. Greatly appreciate the GH7 and S5 II coverage. Hey, thanks so much, man. Yeah, it kind of killed me a bit giving that camera back. But I think at some point I'll definitely be pulling the trigger on one, man. They're so good. But the S5 Mark II, I've got 4 of them now for my multi-camera setup. I absolutely love those things, man. They're so good. I just realized this echo cancellation's on. I'm going to turn it off and see if the audio gets better. So let me know if the audio sounds better now than before. And if it is worse, I'll switch it back on. But yeah, I love the Lumix stuff. It just works for what I do. I really enjoy it. Let us know if you're thinking about getting one of those 2 cameras as well, if you don't already have one. We've got Paul Mack here. Welcome, Paul. Hope you're doing well. Let us know, everybody, folks, where you're watching from as well. It's always cool to to work that out. I've just turned my audio down a hair here. Just found you a month ago and you were quick with your videos on that. Okay, cool. No worries. All good. Yeah, actually I got the GH7 ahead of release, which was cool. So I had about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks with it to, maybe not quite, somewhere around there anyway. I had enough time to really put it through its paces. I own a GH6. I've been using GH5s and G85s and GH5S cameras forever. So yeah, it was great to see what they did with the GH7. I think it was what everyone was kind of waiting for a long time. All right, you have more punch in the audio now. That's great. Thank you. There's this echo cancellation thing that's supposed to help mute background noise. I didn't know it was on. It seems to be on by default when I launch the program, which sucks. So if I don't turn it off, it modulates my voice a little bit weird. Anyway. All right. Philip says you now have more. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I read that already. I've streamed 12 plus hours, streams daily over a year without any issues. Oh, that's great. That's with the ZV-E10. Sorry, I missed that. That's great. If it works for you, man, that's awesome. Yeah, I haven't actually used the ZV-E10 before. I mean, they're pretty good value cameras too. So if that's the case, sorry, I can't remember who was asking before, but just give one of those a look. It sounds like it's got the same sort of plug and play connectivity. I think the biggest compromise though with those cameras is the selfie screen isn't the same sort of quality as some of these other ones I mentioned. But if that doesn't matter, as long as you can see yourself, right, it should work. So you set it to aperture priority mode, auto ISO, and you're laughing. That's awesome, man. I'm glad it's working for you. Mark Shed Talk is from Brisbane. Cold Brisbane. Oh, come on, man. You gotta come to Melbourne. That's where it's at. We've got Gypsy in the USA. Very cool. Very cool. Paul's from Ireland. He says, love your videos. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. He says, do you know if the new Sigma 24-72 allows for different degrees in manual focus rotation with the S5 Mark II X, or is it just Panasonic lenses? Look, I could be wrong with this, and I don't claim to know all the stuff, so I'm going to make an assumption it's mostly only for Panasonic lenses. Yeah, I haven't used a Sigma lens on my S5 Mark II before, or X. So I'm not sure, but I have a feeling some of those sort of like Panasonic-centric features, like Sony's focus breathing compensation, only works on Sony lenses. I wouldn't be surprised if the linear focusing options only are found on Panasonic lenses. I'm almost certain about that, but I'm not. So I'm not going to say that's exactly what it is. But yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, I'll see what I can find out. If I can find anything out when I timestamp the live stream, I'll link something down below and people can check it out. But yeah, I'm not exactly sure if it's available for like other manufacturers' lenses. It's kind of like with the optical image stabilization or the whatever in certain lenses from Olympus. It doesn't work with Panasonic and vice versa, which is strange. And even though that lens mount's the same, it's sort of like not compatible. So if anyone else knows, let us know. Gypsy says, was always a loyal Nikon user. Sony has done good for me what I'm using it for. Sorry, as I go to check the chat here, my screen overlay gets in the way, which is why it looks like I can't read. It's like glitchy all the time. Was always loyal Nikon user. The Sony has done me good for what I use it for. Oh, that's great. I mean, look, that's what it's all about, right? It's about finding something that does the job, that's fun to use, that doesn't break the bank most of the time. I'm just in a weird position of having a multi-camera setup most of the time for my other YouTube channel. And then I've got this YouTube channel, so there's way more stuff than sometimes needs to be in any studio here. But yeah, that's great. I mean, the Sony stuff is fine. You can nitpick every system, no questions about it. But they're all good these days. All right. Do I know if this is from Glyn? Do you know if the Sony has stopped making the HX99 long Zoom Micro two-thirds compact camera. I don't know what that is. Will there be an upgrade version? HX99. Let's just have a quick look. I don't even... Oh, those... Yeah, okay. Interesting. Like the compact cameras. Yeah, that's one thing I'm not 100% certain on, mate. Sorry, I can't really help you with that, but I think a lot of those sort of all-in-one compacts are being discontinued. I remember seeing, or maybe reading a post about it, where camera companies are basically like moving them out of the range. Maybe they're just not that popular. But yeah, look, I have no definitive information on that. Cool. All right, so let us know what you think of the S9 in the studio here. It's worked the entire time. Little HDMI dongle. Big old HDMI cable into the ATEM over here. And it should be in sync with my voice, which is cool. And that means the HDMI lag between both of these cameras are going to be the same. And I love it. The image quality is perfect. I've actually turned the sharpness down to -5 on both of them tonight. So hopefully it's working all right. We're on autofocus over here too. Man, the S9's got great autofocus. Look at that. It's super smooth. Even if I'm not looking at the camera, it knows that's my head. Boom. Awesome. And the S5 over here. Yeah, it's working as well. All right. Hey, thanks, Gypsy. That's awesome. Sony SEL30 M35 30mm f3.5 E-mount macro fixed lens. Days on mine. Very cool. I'm going to get a macro lens at some point. I've been toying with the idea whether or not I just get a micro four thirds one. There's quite a few of them. Because the one thing I noticed using the 100mm L-mount Panasonic lens was there was way too much background blur. Like it was unbelievably... The bokeh was just off the charts. Even at like f10, it was just crazy. I couldn't believe how much background blur there was. I almost found it too challenging to shoot certain situations. It was just crazy. So I'm thinking maybe I might get a micro four thirds one. They're smaller. I think they're probably, because of the 2x crop, the background blur will be way more manageable. Like if I'm shooting at f10 on full frame, that means I'll probably be shooting like f5 on micro four thirds. So yeah, it means if I need a little less background blur, it should be easier to dial in. But yeah, it's one of the few times where I felt like that's too much. I think this 50mm lens over here, this f1.8, is just crazy amount of shallow depth of field. But the 85mm are insane, and the 100mm lens I tested was so good, but just way too blurry. It's crazy. Pete says, how are you getting the S9 to run longer than the 15-minute recording limit? So the great thing about Panasonic cameras, HDMI, I was talking about micro four thirds, sorry. Great thing about the S9 and all the Panasonic cameras, as soon as you plug in a HDMI cable into something like an ATEM Mini, you don't need to hit record, it just stays on. So it's great. Yeah, it works great in a multi-camera studio situation where you're not actually recording. You can let it run all day. I actually watched the Lumix live stream, and Sean, he does a great job on those Q&As and all that kind of stuff. He used one, and I thought, I didn't know, like, you can't see that he's using it, right? But he said he was on the S9, and I thought that's cool. And it just runs. It runs without heating up. It's great. It's just the recording limit's there because there's no active cooling, and I think they'd rather have that there than the camera overheating, like without warning, like they do on other systems. So yeah, it's a bit of a bummer that the recording limit's on the S9, but at the same time, it's one of the most fun camera systems to use. It really is. I think once it drops another $400-500, it's going to be game over, man. These things, I think they're already selling pretty well from what I understand, but it'll be great to see just how well they do in the course of the next sort of 6 months. But yeah, basically plug a HDMI cable in without recording, it'll stay on. And I've got a dummy battery plugged into the bottom here. All right, I show coins and things up close. Very cool. Yeah, I mean, any of those macro lenses will be great for that, without question. Yeah, the Nifty 50 it's a great secondary view. You know, on my main camera here, it's always a 35mm or somewhere right near there. When I'm shooting with the Sony, I've got the Sony 35mm SEL or SEL 35mm, and that's a great lens too. That's actually got a pretty good minimum focusing distance, and it's quite small too, which is what I really like about it. But the 35mm f1.8 is perfect for the studio. It's just out of arm's reach, so the camera's just far enough back. And yeah, the 50mm, it's just got a really premium look to it. Every time I shoot outside with this lens, I usually have someone in the comments go, "Oh, what lens are you using?" It's the 50mm. It came for free with 2 of my S5s, my original ones. They're super cool. All right, guys, let us know if you got any last questions here. We're probably going to wrap things up pretty soon. I just wanted to get on and have a bit of a yarn and a chat about camera tech, whatever. It seems to just be mostly camera stuff, and I'm totally okay with that because that's my favorite topic. All right. Yeah, I'll show you what it is. I'll go grab it. It's the 51.8. Here we go. Here we go. Let's do this. Oh, got the lens cap's not on properly. A lens hood, I should say. Yeah, that guy. You know what I really like about this series of lenses? They all look like they're from the same series. They're like the same size and all that kind of stuff. They don't have aperture rings, and you know, they're not metal, but they're pretty small. Like, that's a full frame lens. It's pretty cool, man. It's definitely bigger than Micro Four Thirds, obviously, but yeah, I really like this series. The 18 to the 100 are all almost exactly the same. It's pretty cool. I'll type it in. I'll type my other channel in. You can check it out. I actually did a live stream on there today as well. It's completely different. It's guitar-centric content. So, yeah, you can check out what I do on there. So my multi-camera setup for that studio is S5 Mark IIs. And the S9 has become like my B-roll camera. It's fantastic. The autofocus makes it easy, and it's always a bit of fun to use. So unfortunately, the Sonys are just like not getting used enough to probably warrant keeping them. I think I'll do the double trade-in and pick something else. So that's the decision that's coming up. I can get a pretty good deal on, especially the FX3. You know, it was this camera has been awesome. I still think this is arguably their best video camera in 2024. But now that the ZV-E1 is out, if you're a non-serious video shooter, why would you spend twice as much money on this or more? It's just, this has gone up in price since I bought it. I don't know how that happens, but yeah, I want to sort of sell this while it's still got some value, or trade it in for something, and that's definitely what's happening. If I do end up with a Sony, like I mentioned earlier, it'll be something like the A7C II as a non-primary, great little hybrid camera. I take great photos, use video in, you know, basic video features. That'll be great. Must have for the kit. Oh yeah. Sorry, that was for the 50mm. I tell you what, man, the 50mm are just the way to go. One of my friends, Matti Salanto, who has a great YouTube channel. I actually met him earlier this year. He bought an S5 Mark IIX, and he said, "What prime do you like the best?" And I said, "The 50." He goes, "It's really impressive, but now I want the 35 and the 24." I said, "Yeah, that'll happen." But yeah, this came for free in a with the S5 Mark II. They must have had like a trouble selling it or something. So I got a kit lens pack with an additional 50mm lens, and I ended up trading in older cameras and getting 2 original S5s, and I kept the 50s. The 50s are so good. I've got an extra one of these somewhere too, but they're friggin' awesome. I was confused by production quality. Now it makes sense. 2 strong channels. Thanks, man. Yeah, my other one's been going for a long time. I've been doing it for 10 years full time since I left my day job. And I've been doing it a lot longer than that. So while the subscribers aren't as big as a lot of other channels, the views are crazy. I get a lot of long-term views on that channel. I put a lot of work into it. It's got over 3,000 videos. So, I mean, mixed content. Some live streams, some quick uploads, some high production value stuff, podcasts, everything. It's got everything on there. So that's definitely been my focus for the last however many years. But I'm loving getting into this channel. It's been fun sort of starting again. I did a few things wrong with this channel early on. I sort of made it general tech. In the back of my mind, I wanted to do it as a camera channel, but I didn't think I have enough stuff to keep that kind of thing moving. But in hindsight, I probably just should have called it Shane's Camera and Tech or something. I might still change the name at some point. I'm not too sure. It's probably too late to do that now. Yeah, so my other channel's got like 130 million views almost now, which is pretty big considering I'm a one-man show. This channel is definitely nowhere near as large, but I'm trying to put out a similar work ethic, like keep the quality as high as I can with the time I have. And long-term, that stuff generally does okay. So yeah. What software am I using? I'm using E-Camm Live. So this is just it's a paid piece of software. They had a sale on it a little while back, and I thought I'll take a chance. It was what did I get it for? $130 for a year. I hate subscription services, but I was using Open Broadcaster software with this really inconsistent plugin for comments. I wanted the comments to come up on screen. I wanted to share stuff with everybody. And Open Broadcaster software is great if it works properly, but it's inherently sort of slightly buggy with third-party plugins to the point where it was, every time I set it up, I'd need to go back and fix something. And I just thought, I'll try this for a year. I don't think I'll be renewing it after a year. I'm going to give Open Broadcaster software another go in about 12 months, and we'll see how we go. But this has been great. I mean, for doing what I'm doing right now, it's really easy. There's also another one I've used called StreamYard, which is fantastic as well. But they sort of handicap your resolution for no reason. You got to pay more to get 4K or 1080p 60 or something. It doesn't make any sense. Like their HD is 720p, and that's still a premium price. It's like, what a joke. 10 years full time, incredible. That's amazing, dude. Hey, thanks, man. Yeah, I was one of the OGs in the guitar niche back in the day. So I was uploading videos of stuff guitar wise before basically anyone else. It was myself, another guy called Lewis from New Jersey, and a handful of other dudes. And then around 2008, I signed up for the AdSense program to make a few bucks, and I made $3 my first day. I thought, this is pretty cool. And then I went down the rabbit hole of trying to work out, so how many videos do I need? How many views do I need for this? How do I get to... And I just set a whole bunch of like goals to leave my job. I was like, I gotta get it to here. So I'd get home from... I used to work in IT. Used to get home. If you go back to my early videos, you'll see me in a suit almost. I used to get home, film videos, then get changed. If I did it any other way, I'd not do anything. So I burnt both ends of the of the what's the saying called? I just basically worked hard. I got home, filmed, finished all that, got up, went back to work, and did that for like two and a half years, and it was worth it. It was a big job, but yeah, I'm really enjoying my time on YouTube now. I'm just sort of taking more chances, having a bit of fun, and just enjoying it. Hey, thank you. You watched the End of the Blues. That's great. Oh, cool. Thank you. Did you drop the link? I didn't drop it. I just typed the name of it in. I'll put it on screen. There we go. Yeah, YouTube full-time is... A lot of people think it's... Look, there's some channels that can release anything and get a lot of views. And I'm not just talking about tech. I mean, just something that might take them 10 minutes and it'll get 200,000 views, right? Unfortunately, a lot of what we do, or like a lot of what I've done, isn't those sort of videos. I have a long-term strategy of if someone searches for this, it'll be good, rather than the short-term, clickbait stuff that will never get seen 3 months from now. But there's, channels that will do news-related stuff that will get a lot of views all the time because everything's current. You can do that with camera stuff to some degree. There's a lot of people that just talk about stuff that's coming out, or, they'll talk about something they don't even have, and that's totally cool, and that will get a lot of views just based on the interest at that particular time as well. So that's a smart move too. I could do more of that. I've done some of that in the past, but yeah, I don't know. It feels a little disingenuous when you're not using something to critique it. Other than the blatantly obvious stuff that a lot of reviewers tend to not cover. The new Sony ZV-E10 Mark II. The best review of that was Jason Vong by a mile. His review of that was so good. He talked about why the cons mattered. And I didn't hear anyone else talk about that. They said, it doesn't have this, but it's like, no, break that down for me. Tell me more. And he was the only guy I heard talk about these things. Gerald O'Donnell also spoke about the overheating issue with the camera, and I thought that was really cool too. But this, it's the whole, these are the flaws, let's move on. That approach I don't love. So yeah, I think if you're at all interested in that camera, you're thinking about pre-ordering it or buying it or whatever, check out Jason Vong's video. It's awesome. He did such a great job. All right. I'm using Restream. Yes, I understand the issue works for me. Restream. That's probably fine too. Look, Open Broadcaster software is phenomenal. I just wanted something that was a little easier, that I could move between computers and have it work. I think that's the only thing I was really thinking of. OBS, you have to kind of set it up on every computer. You can probably load and save profiles. I wouldn't be surprised if you can do that actually nowadays. But this is sort of cloud-based. I can set it up on my other computer, my editing workstation, come over to my Mac or my laptop here, and all the settings are there. That's kind of cool. Like my live stream settings are there. I don't have to sort of set everything up again and do that. So this for me kind of works. But yeah, they're all good. They really are. All right, guys, we might wrap this up. Thanks so much for hanging out. I'll timestamp this in the description. You can skip ahead back and forth later on once I do a lap. But I appreciate your time. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you on the next one. And if I missed your question, I apologize. I tried my best to answer everybody's question. I don't have all the answers, of course. And stay tuned for my camera shop debacle online shopping extravaganza video that'll be coming up. I've got to try to. I just want to check it tomorrow to make sure my tone is fine, because I find when you're fired up about something, it's not always the best time to film. But we'll see how we go. It should be a good point of difference. Anyway, I'm going to share some tips and tutorial videos with a few things as well. So I'm going to talk about the grading process. I always get a lot of compliments on, hey, how do you get your footage to look like this? These are the kind of things I'm going to share with you to make shooting, whatever it is you're shooting, a bit easier as well. So stay tuned for that. Anyway, thanks again for hanging out, folks. I appreciate it. If you can leave a thumbs up, that'd be awesome. And yeah, we'll catch you soon. Cheers.